When a billionaire carries her upstairs, an amazing secret is revealed that changes everything. Jenna Collins stood frozen in the midst of the gala's opulence, her heart racing as laughter and jubilant chatter filled the room. The sharp winds from outside seeped into her thoughts, echoing the turmoil that had uprooted her life overnight. Once a high-powered attorney in a prestigious law firm, she now felt like a phantom, an echo of her former self. A wrongful dismissal left her reputation in tatters, and the relentless whispers of colleagues had become an unbearable cacophony. Panic tightened around her chest as she grasped at the edges of her pride. How had she fallen so far? As she tried to blend into the stream of affluent attendees, her mind spiraled into a knot of anxieties. Bills piled up, looming like storm clouds overhead, casting shadows over her determination to keep her head high. This nonprofit consulting gig seemed like a cruel joke to her former friends. Why waste your talents? They'd say, dismissing it with a wave. Unconsciously, Jenna rubbed her temples, trying to ease the weight of their judgments and her mounting desperation. Before she could unravel further, a commotion erupted, drawing her attention. In a heartbeat, she felt Marcus Roth's firm grip around her waist, and he swept her upstairs, away from the chaos. The adrenaline coursed through her, paralyzing and exhilarating all at once. In his presence, Jenna felt an unexpected spark, a flicker that momentarily warmed the cold reality of her life. But then, her eyes landed on an old trunk in the corner, dust swirling in the faint light. Jenna couldn't help herself. She approached it, her fingers running over the weathered wood. Opening it, she found a tattered letter tucked inside, calling to her with a sense of urgency. As she unfolded the fragile paper, memories swirled through her head. Her family whispered of a time when they had stood for justice, fought for the very community she now sought to uplift. This letter was not merely ink on paper. It was a link to her past and a revelation that knocked the breath from her lungs. The weight of her family's legacy crashed down on her, wresting her from the numbness of her present. Ambition had fueled her every move, but now, nagging doubts crept in. Would uncovering truths hidden in those dusty archives mean risking everything she had fought for? Her heart raced. Was the polished career she'd built worth sacrificing for a cause she'd never fully belonged to? A familiar fear began to claw at her throat, the fear of inadequacy, a feeling like a fraud both in her former life and this new role. Before she could process her swirling emotions, an almost instinctual pull to seek out the truth consumed her. Days passed as Jenna dove into family records, her resolve steeling as desperation morphed into determination. Each piece of information revealed the wide chasm between her mother's stories of resilience and the watered-down versions Jenna had been telling herself. Just as Jenna pieced together the fabric of her family's history, an unexpected offer entered the fray. Marcus, charismatic and relentless, proposed a partnership in her mission to empower families, fueling a passion that was igniting but also testing her to the core. The allure of a triumphant return to success tugged at her crucially, competing violently with her newfound purpose, a pulsating, raw ambition to fight for justice that pierced right through her. In a life-altering moment, Jenna found herself in a standoff. Her former boss now offered her a second chance in the world that had turned its back on her. While outside those lofty windows, families were rallying at a community meeting, desperately seeking someone to fight for them. Each heartbeat echoed in her head, reminding her of the choice that lingered on the horizon. Would she cling to the remnants of a prestigious career or embrace the path toward a truth that could mean giving up that very identity? As Jenna turned to speak, a staggering revelation slipped through the fog of her turmoil, leaving her breathless. What if the truth she sought meant losing everything she'd once desired? The heavy burden of that question loomed over her as the winding path of her future remained shrouded in uncertainty. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains as Jenna paced the length of her small apartment, the faded carpet barely muting her footsteps. Last night's decision loomed over her like a storm cloud. The offer from Marcus had awakened a dormant fire within her, yet that same fire ignited the voices of doubt from her past. She could almost hear her former colleagues scoffing at her new mission, a mission that felt right yet risked her lingering need for validation. She halted, staring at the framed photo on her desk, a younger version of herself taken at her law school graduation. The proud smile that had captured that moment now felt like a mask, masking the ambivalence that enveloped her. Picking up the photo, she traced her finger along the edge of the frame, a futile attempt to recapture the confidence she once felt. How easily she'd traded that confidence for the security of acceptance, she thought bitterly. Resolving to take charge of her future, Jenna grabbed a notebook and began jotting down her thoughts. The spiraling consequences of each option: return to the corporate world or fully engage with her family's legacy, married with her deep worry of inadequacy. But this time felt different. She wanted to harness that energy into creating a path that would not compromise her principles. The first step echoed through her mind: research. She needed to learn more about the community she intended to serve. With a fresh determination, Jenna ventured out into the city, ready to embrace the role of advocate. As she moved through the familiar streets, a mix of anxiety and eagerness surged within her. Flipping through contact emails, she reached out to local organizations, each message a thread stitching a broader vision of what she could potentially achieve. Days turned into weekends as Jenna met with families, documented their struggles, and gathered stories that resonated with her newly uncovered sense of purpose. As she listened, the profound injustices hit her like bricks. Families losing homes due to bureaucratic neglect, children unable to access basic education. Each encounter was a spark, burning through the complacency she had worn like armor. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with a new message from Marcus, suggesting a meeting to discuss their collaboration. Her heart raced. Working with him could mean stepping into a spotlight she had shunned since her dismissal. Would this new partnership allow her to enact real change, or would she merely be a pawn in his game, a version of the self she had left behind? Uncertainty twisted in her stomach as she contemplated the meeting. She looked again at the photo of her younger self, the ambitious attorney with dreams of changing the world from within a sleek high-rise. But now, her ambitions whispered for a deeper fulfillment and authentic, raw connection to those who fought daily against an indifferent system. In that moment, Jenna made a choice. She wore her heart on her sleeve, melding her ambition with an unwavering commitment to uplift the very individuals she had once overlooked in pursuit of her career. As the hour approached for her meeting with Marcus, anticipation fused with dread. Would he share her vision, or would he be intent on reshaping her into a reflection of the very corporate aesthetics she despised? Her fingers brushed the pen in her pocket, a talisman she intended to use to etch her destiny into existence. Just as she steeled herself for the encounter, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Surprised and curious, she opened the door to find an unexpected visitor standing on her threshold, a woman who looked strikingly familiar, urgency dancing in her eyes. "Are you Jenna Collins?" the woman asked, her voice sharp. "You need to know something that could change everything." Jenna's heart skipped a beat at the woman's intensity, a magnetism that drew her in as surely as a strong current. Shaking her head to dispel the momentary confusion, she finally spoke, her voice steady but cautious. "Yes, I'm Jenna. Who are you?" The woman's gaze penetrated deep, cataloging Jenna in an instant. "I'm Rachel, a colleague of Marcus." The name cut through Jenna's thoughts, reigniting her unease about the impending meeting. "I know about your plans to partner with him." "What about them?" Jenna's defensiveness flared. Spiderwebs of doubt spun in her mind. Was this an attempt to undermine her decision, to sway her back towards a past she'd tried to leave behind? Rachel took a step closer, lowering her voice. "Marcus has his own agenda. He's not what he seems." The urgency in her tone pressed against Jenna's walls, compelling her to listen. "He can be ruthless in his pursuit of a vision that isn't yours. I can't let that happen." Jenna's stomach churned. The mere mention of Marcus's name felt like a thunderclap, echoing in her head. She sensed layers of ambition in him, but now, his motives began to twist through her consciousness like a venomous vine. "What do you mean?" Jenna pressed, her mind racing with the implications. "What are you trying to say?" Rachel hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as though they were under scrutiny. "I can't give all the details here. Just if you're serious about this new direction, you need to approach your meeting with caution." She paused, locking eyes with Jenna. "Don't let him pull you back into a role that doesn't reflect who you are." The weight of those words sank into Jenna, taking root in her resolve. "Why should I believe you? How do I know you're not trying to undermine my opportunity?" The intensity in Rachel's eyes softened momentarily before she spoke. I understand your skepticism, but you're on the cusp of something significant. Trust your instincts. Before you meet with Marcus, please do your due diligence. Investigate his connections and his past projects. They may lead you to uncomfortable truths. Jenna stole a breath, the anxiety bubbling over her surface. This encounter had flipped the script of her day. She hadn't prepared for revelations so soon, especially ones that called into question a pivotal decision. Would the risk of collaborating with Marcus negate the purpose she felt budding in her chest? Why do you care? Jenna inquired, her curiosity piqued. Her eyes searched Rachel's face for sincerity. What's in this for you? Rachel's countenance hardened for a moment, a glimmer of something deeper crossing her features. Let us just say I've been where you are, and I lost too much. If I had someone like me telling the truth back then, things would be different. With her heart pounding, Jenna felt the walls of her new determination crack a little further. She wasn't just on the brink of reclaiming her own future. This was also a chance to protect others from becoming victims of ambition gone awry. What is your plan then? She asked, an almost primal instinct for preparedness driving her words. What do I need to do? Rachel lowered her voice, speaking conspiratorially. Gather what you can on Marcus. Talk to people who know him well. See what shadows linger behind the facade. Only then will you understand what you're stepping into. As Jenna absorbed the information, a sense of empowerment surged within her. This could be the catalyst she needed not just to defend her aspirations, but to rise beyond the girl captured in that graduation photo, thriving actively instead of merely surviving reactively. Thank you for coming by, Jenna said finally, her trust reluctantly forming. I appreciate your warning. I won't take this lightly. Rachel's lips curved into a slight smile, a nod of understanding. Just remember, change comes with challenges. Trust yourself. As the door closed behind her visitor, Jenna felt the electric buzz of possibilities brightening her thoughts. Her commitment to the advocacy she craved surged with new fervor, tempered now by caution. With her heart steadying, Jenna opened her notebook to her scribbled plans. She'd have to think strategically, but this path was calling her one that could potentially reshape her career and identity entirely. Yet, the impending meeting with Marcus loomed, filled with uncertainties. Would she be able to stand firm in her vision, or was the alluring prospect of power too hard to resist? Jenna shook her head, resolving to stay true to her purpose, but also to tread carefully amongst the shadows. Her next actions would define every choice that followed. And as she drafted her list of key questions for Marcus, an unsettling thought crept in: what if the price of this new identity encompassed sacrifices she hadn't anticipated? The stakes felt high, the future dimly lit but glaringly palpable. The moment of truth was coming, and Jenna braced herself as she prepared to meet the storm head-on. Jenna closed her notebook and leaned back in her chair, the weight of Rachel's warning hanging heavily in the air. One part of her wanted to push Marcus to the back of her mind entirely, to bask in the exhilaration of new possibilities untainted by fear. But the other part of her, a part that now felt more prominent than ever, knew she needed to be meticulous. She spent the next few days in a whirlwind of research, scouring social media, articles, and any documentation she could find about Marcus. With every piece of information, she unearthed aspects of his career that left her more unsettled. His projects had often been praised, yet there were whispers of underlying tensions, controversies artistically woven away from public scrutiny. Jenna noted the discrepancies, the patterns of maneuvering, clear indications that Marcus was a more experienced player in this game than she initially thought. Determined to arm herself with knowledge, Jenna reached out to contacts in their shared industry, former coworkers, acquaintances, even competitors. The web of interactions revealed an unsettling picture of Marcus's ruthlessness, his propensity to crush dissent underfoot. Each conversation uncoiled another strand of doubt. The deeper she dug, the clearer it became. Marcus operated by his own rules, each success laced with the ghosts of past decisions that echoed loudly through the corridors of people's careers. But rather than being paralyzed by fear or anxiety, Jenna felt her apprehension morph into resolve. She began to see the project they could work on not just through her eyes, but through hers as well. It could serve as a platform to showcase her vision, her ethics, if she could negotiate that space with clarity and firmness. It was time to step into the role she once feared, but now viewed as essential to reclaiming her narrative. As the meeting approached, Jenna revisited her list of questions. They were no longer merely inquiries. They were strategies laden with intent. Each question crafted to elicit more than just answers, to peel back the layers she sensed lurking beneath his polished exterior. On the day of the meeting, Jenna dressed carefully, donning an outfit that radiated professionalism and confidence, tempered with an unexpected vulnerability. She knew she needed to strike the right balance of authority and authenticity. The drive to the meeting felt different, a mixture of nerves and anticipation, much like the flutter of wings before a storm. She arrived at the sleek office building, the ambience both intimidating and invigorating. As she walked toward the elevator, Jenna caught her reflection in one of the glass panes. She seemed different, transformed. The woman staring back at her was no longer just the planner or the strategist. She was a contender, ready to articulate her vision and stand firm against distractions. "Jenna, so glad you could make it." Marcus greeted her with a slick smile as she stepped into the conference room. He exuded charm and confidence, the quintessential billionaire. But Jenna was now acutely aware of the layers that could be lying beneath his affable facade. "Thank you for having me, Marcus," she replied, matching his tone with her own firm resolve. As they settled into their discussion about their potential collaboration, the dance of words began, a delicate balance of pushing back against Marcus's suggestions while revealing her true ambitions. She felt empowered with each question she posed, sensing the tension mounting with each response he gave. It was a mental tug-of-war, one that required not only clarity of thought, but also deep self-awareness to ensure she didn't lose herself in the process. However, the meeting took an unexpected turn when Marcus revealed a proposal, starkly veering from the direction she was prepared for. It was an offer entwined with threads of Sebastian's ambitions that could dwarf her vision and include complications she hadn't anticipated. Jenna's mind raced as she contemplated the implications. Was this opportunity the gateway to her aspirations, or would it entrap her in a web where Marcus's agenda overshadowed her voice? Reality crashed down as the stakes solidified. The pivotal decision loomed: stick to the integrity of her vision or risk it all for a chance at success influenced by someone else's desires. She felt the weight of her past choices lurking just beyond the door of the conference room, reminding her of who she once was. Time seemed to suspend in that moment as her heart quickened. The answer wouldn't just define her career. It would reshape who she was becoming. "Can I take a moment to think about this?" Jenna asked, her voice steady despite the storm inside. As she stepped back from the table, a fierce clarity settled in. Whatever choice she made would echo well beyond this meeting. It would carve the path of her future. And with that decision pending, Jenna understood one thing: she was poised for a defining moment. The power was in her hands, and it was time to choose a direction. The clock ticked on, urgency bubbling at the surface, a storm gathering strength. What decision would she make? Jenna turned away from the imposing conference table, its sleek surface reflecting a myriad of thoughts. She felt like a chess piece caught between a complex game she had just begun to comprehend. There was something both exhilarating and terrifying about being at this crossroads, an opportunity to seize the narrative she had crafted over the past few weeks, yet a decision that could easily twist into a shadowy path. "Jenna," Marcus's voice sliced through her thoughts, the lilt somewhat impatient. "It's a substantial offer, one that is not going to wait for you forever." His eyes held a glimmer of expectation, as if her hesitation was a game that he had already won. His words stoked the fire within her, igniting a realization. This was not merely about the project. It was a reflection of her determination to forge a distinct identity within the industry. She was no longer just a participant in a world ruled by powerful figures. She was beginning to grasp the reins. Jenna inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with a sense of newfound purpose. "I appreciate the offer, Marcus, truly," she responded, centering herself with the weight of the decision sinking in. "But I need to make sure our visions align before proceeding." "Align?" he echoed, a hint of surprise flashing across his features. "You want to reshape what we've built to fit a mold that may not even exist?" There was a subtle challenge in his tone, an attempt to provoke and rattle her confidence. Beneath her composed exterior lay a storm of uncertainty, but it was also where she felt the most alive. I'm not interested in conforming to any mold, she countered, maximizing her voice's steadiness. I want to collaborate on something that resonates with both our visions, the kind of project that isn't at risk of being overshadowed by past precedents. Marcus's brow furrowed, a mixture of intrigue and irritation playing across his features. For a fleeting moment, Jenna reveled in seeing the cracks form in his smooth exterior. The realization began to sink in: this was not just a negotiation, it was a confrontation of principles. Her thoughts flickered to the conversations she'd had, the whispers that painted Marcus as a formidable player. She leaned towards the table, emboldened by everything she had learned. What makes your vision unique, Marcus? How do you see it elevating the project without calling into question the ethics behind our choices? I think we need to get to the root of how our approaches could actually work together before I can even consider this. His lips curled into a sardonic smile, the kind that suggested he had not anticipated her fortitude. You're quite the strategist, Jenna. Most newcomers wouldn't dare question my motives so directly. Then perhaps my perspective isn't something you should dismiss, she replied, relishing the clarity of her own position. If we can engage authentically, the project could be profound. But if it's merely for show, then what are we really achieving? As the conversation continued, Jenna began mapping unseen strategies in her mind, piecing together Marcus's responses with her own observations. Each affirmation or challenge from him unfurled layers, each revealing a fragment of his persona. He was far from just a businessman. He was a master manipulator, and now she needed to maneuver effectively through the layers he created. Yet the more knowledge she gained, the clearer her own vision became. Jenna sensed her drive evolving. She started to envision the project not just as a collaboration, but as a vibrant canvas where she could paint her own values amid the chaos. This was her moment to scaffold her identity upon the foundation of her professional desires. As the meeting dragged on, Jenna barely noticed the time slipping away. She remained inaudibly aware of Marcus's patterns, listening closer than before, questioning the subtext hidden in his responses. Each moment brought a surge of confidence as she realized she was dismantling the intentions behind his polished proposals, understanding that his offers were never without ulterior motives. Eventually, Marcus shifted tactics. You do seem particularly invested in this. I can appreciate that, he stated, a hint of respect surfacing in his tone. I would never have imagined we would end up here after your initial doubts. Jenna seized on that newfound respect. Her pulse quickening, his approval signaled a shift she had long sought. What if we could expand on this? I mean, a collaboration that genuinely represents both of our goals, rather than succumbing to a predefined narrative. As she laid out her ideas, weaving her vision into the conversation, Jenna felt the swell of possibility enveloping her. A path might be unfolding, allowing her to integrate her passion with Marcus's influence, but she remained cautious. Could she truly find balance within his shadow? The potential enormity of her decision began to loom once more, intertwining with the layers of ambition that floated around the room. As the conversation stretched into uncertain terrain, Jenna realized she was navigating a complex landscape of power dynamics. All while attempting to position herself firmly, the mental gears began to turn with questions: what would success look like anchored in her integrity? Taking a deep breath, Jenna prepared to probe deeper, sensing that the essence of her character was about to confront Marcus's established precepts head-on. She had freed herself from mere apprehension, and the next step would push her to the cliff's edge where true growth met its challenge. Marcus, before we wrap up, there's something I need to know. She paused, letting her heart guide her. What's that? He prompted, dismissal barely hiding the intrigue in his gaze. Can you commit to a collaboration that doesn't just feed the machinery of this industry, but actually seeks to change it for the better? In that charged moment, the atmosphere shifted, pulling taut with new possibilities. The decision was no longer solely about her career, but a thirst for authenticity that demanded accountability. As Jenna held his gaze, she felt the moment grow electric, the air thick with tension. An answer would reveal not only the path forward, but also the lengths Marcus was willing to go for ambition. Was this the pivotal moment where her aspirations collided with a greater purpose? Or a diversion that could unravel everything she sought to achieve? The stakes were high, and this cliff-edge moment felt just the beginning of an unpredictable ride. What Marcus said next would either anchor her resolve or shift her world entirely. Jenna's heart raced as she and Marcus locked eyes. The tension was palpable, an electric current coursing through the air, magnifying the weight of her words. Would he recognize the sincerity behind her inquiry, or would he dismiss it as just another challenge in their ongoing game of wits? There's a momentary pause, during which every possibility unfurled in her mind. She could feel her carefully constructed world teetering on the edge of that uncertain abyss. Marcus was the master of layers, but she had peeled back enough of his facade to realize he was also a man of power intersected with vulnerability. "Well, Jenna," he replied, his voice steady but his eyes shimmering with unvoiced calculations. "You're asking for something rather unusual in our line of work. Most people punch in and out to fit the mold. You seem intent on reshaping it entirely." His playful bravado stung, a reminder that while she was carving a niche for herself, Marcus was undoubtedly more seasoned in the art of negotiation. That twisted sense of loyalty, wanting to forge an alliance while still questioning if she could trust him, pricked at her mind. Yet, within that vulnerability lay an iron resolve that she'd not previously tapped into. "Is that a yes or a no?" Jenna pressed, the firmness in her voice challenging the ambiguity of his response. It felt bold, but she was ready to take a risk. Her vision of the collaborative project loomed like a specter, beckoning her to seize this very moment. Marcus leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing her. The gears turned in his mind. He was calculating the cost of and the potential gains behind the decision. This business is fraught with powers that seek only to consume the new, Jenna. But there are exceptions, rare creatures that emerge when the conditions are right. Like us? She ventured. Infusing the metaphor with her own determination, she aimed to include him in this potential risk not as an ally above her, but as a colleague willing to explore uncharted territory. "Perhaps," he replied, a trace of intrigue dancing across his lips, but the shadows in his demeanor remained. "Or perhaps I may be the one leading you into the dark." Jenna felt a chill race along her spine. His candor unsettled her, yet also stoked her burgeoning desire to dismantle every typecast her career had cast her into. "Then let me choose my darkness." The words escaped before she could temper them with caution, her conviction erupting with unexpected clarity. The realization was staggering, hovering like a headline over her consciousness. This was her fight, her decision. There were no guarantees in this world, and yet she was willing to preside over her choices, illuminating the dim corners others hesitated to tread. The dialogue morphed, shifting from adversaries locked in a competitive chamber to potential collaborators at a crossroads. As they spoke in tandem, Jenna's ideas blended with Marcus's more calculated approaches, creating a complex tapestry of ambition and integrity. She felt a wave of possibilities wash over her, a concoction bordering on genius. If they could truly invest in this collective vision, yet memories from the whispers of the industry echoed in her mind. "But how many trails does it take before trust dissolves between us? Can I truly count on you to not slip into those predatory ways?" "Trust is an intricate lace woven from moments too precious to squander," he mused, the layers of his experience culminating in that single truth. "But to play this game, you must decide how much you're willing to gamble." The very foundation of her ambition quaked. She was levered into a decision that could either solidify her vision or shatter the nascent identity she was starting to cultivate. This was no mere project. It had evolved into a personal battleground marked with stakes that stretched beyond the boardroom and into the sanctum of her values. Jenna took a deep breath, her mind racing with strategic twists and turns. "If we don't embark on this with authenticity, it will wither away like all the other abandoned proposals. Can we promise that no matter what, we will ensure values stand tall above ambitions?" Marcus nodded, the air thickening with an unspoken agreement, yet traces of doubt surfaced. "That's all well and good until the pressure escalates. Just remember, once we step into the light, there's no returning to the shadows." She felt the weight of his warning, a double-edged sword that tasted like both caution and opportunity. "Then let us not waste time," Jenna replied, bolstered by the thrill of momentary resolve. But as they leaned into deeper strategy, Jenna's mind flashed to images of a future where her voice mattered. Moments where she wouldn't be just a pawn, but a formidable player in her own right. Navigating those powers would demand resolve, but it was the only pathway to legacy. However fragile, in this charged space of possibility, one daunting thought lingered. What if this collaboration forced her to confront more than just Marcus's intentions? What if they unmasked her own insecurities, the fear of breaking free from the chains of expectation? As the session drew to a close, Jenna knew that not only her career balance hung in the balance, but also the essence of her purpose. With the stakes set high, she understood the landscape would soon shift under her feet. Marcus, she offered as they prepared to part, if this works, it will be groundbreaking. But what happens if it unravels? He met her with an enigmatic smile, a flicker of something neither completely transparent nor entirely chilling. Then we'll both have to face the consequences head-on. As he turned to leave, her mind reeled at the thought of potential failures that loomed larger now than ever before. The taste of ambition mingled surprisingly with a sense of dread. Could she navigate this partnership without losing herself? Unquestionably, this was just the beginning. With every new question sprouting in the fertile soil of her ambition, she realized how precarious the next step would be. Trust, values, and desire interwove in a dance of uncertainty. But Jenna was ready to dip her toes into this evolving narrative. What lurked just beyond the horizon? The air was thick with anticipation as Jenna returned to her office, the exhilaration of her encounter with Marcus still lingering like fine perfume. Everything felt fragile yet charged. Each decision weighed differently now, spiraling into the territory of the unprecedented. She couldn't shake the thrill coupled with creeping doubts, thoughts angling towards what this collaboration could solidify or shatter. Seating herself at her desk, the chaos of paperwork and strategy documents loomed around her, mingling with her scattered thoughts. Flipping through the pages, she felt a wave of determination wash over her. The blend of her ideas with Marcus's insights had sparked something potent. The vision was richer than she had initially conceived. Still, foundations were nothing without substance. Could they turn their ambitious blueprint into tangible results? Her mind flashed back to the moments shared with Marcus as they unraveled strategies and analyzed the intricacies of their industry. Their dialogues were laden with unspoken agreements, but would they hold firm when challenged? A shiver coursed through her as doubts tiptoed into her consciousness. Could she trust Marcus? Should she risk her budding professional identity on a partnership that could just as easily lead to her downfall? Focus, she instructed herself, steeling her resolve. Jenna grabbed her notebook, the pages still blank, reflecting endless possibilities. She needed direction. If they were to move forward, she had to articulate her vision succinctly enough to channel their combined talents into something cohesive. Outlining the objectives required more than ambition, it demanded clarity. Breathing deeply, she sketched her thoughts, strategies that transcended mere numbers, ambitious goals twisted around integrity. Hours passed in a whirlwind of words and diagrams, ideas crystallizing on the page. But as her vision began to take shape, a looming question flickered at the back of her mind. What inherent biases or blind spots was she neglecting in this pursuit? The fear of failure hovered, just beyond reach, waiting to rear its head when least expected. Determined not to repeat the mistakes of her past, Jenna leaned back, allowing her thoughts to settle. She envisioned every aspect of the partnership, solidifying her expectations for herself as much as for Marcus. That pivotal moment of commitment was not merely about collaboration. It was about reinforcing her own standards in a field embarrassed by quick victories and hollow accolades. With a newfound sense of purpose brewing, she resolved to confront the industry's fertile yet harsh landscape with an arsenal of integrity as her shield. As she internalized that determination, a noise shattered her focus. The soft tap of heels against the tile floor announced Lana, her assistant, approaching with a stack of documents. "Jenna, I've organized the pitches for the upcoming board meeting. There's something you might want to see." Lana's voice broke through the chaos with an urgency that stirred Jenna's curiosity. "Let us go over it," Jenna said, motioning to her assistant. Lana laid the documents out before her, and Jenna's heart sank slightly upon skimming the titles. The competitors were formidable, each tailored pitch laced with ostentatious promises. There in the middle of them was a certain project led by someone Jenna hadn't anticipated, the firm's COO, Roger McCall. He was notorious for his cutthroat practices, often leaving a trail of bruised egos and shattered dreams that had not formed in Jenna's stomach. Roger's ambition knew no bounds. If he got wind of her collaboration with Marcus, it could put her initiative at risk before it even took off. "We need to be strategic here," she said, acutely aware of what lay ahead. "Let us prepare for pushback. I won't allow this project to be derailed." Fired up with resolve, Jenna tapped her pen against her notebook, the rhythm steadily crashing against her burgeoning doubts. "What if we used their proposals against them?" Lana suggested, her eyes alight with mischief. "If we can preemptively play their strengths while mining for weaknesses, we can turn the tables." The pulse quickened in Jenna's veins, the idea of subverting the competitive atmosphere invigorating her. "Yes, let us dissect their weaknesses. Gather every bit of information on them we can." Silence settled between them, thickening with purpose. This was at the stakes, just ramped up. She was now positioning herself not merely as a challenger, but as a strategist capable of outmaneuvering even the most ruthless players. Was she ready to face Roger directly? The thought sent a bolt of electricity surging through her. As the moments ticked away, the nagging awareness of Marcus's looming presence resurfaced. They had an agreement, an alliance framed by ambition. Moving against competitors, including Roger, would demand her to lean into that partnership rapidly, yet would it be enough to defend her nascent identity in the cutthroat arena? She needed to reach out to Marcus. There was momentum building, and they needed to fortify their strategy or risk being blindsided by the tactics of their rivals. Jenna grabbed her phone, hunting for Marcus's contact. With fingers trembling slightly over the screen, she felt the familiar trepidation iced with anticipation. As she prepared to engage with him, a singular thought echoed. The true test would be not just in crafting plans, but in forging this partnership with integrity while navigating the industry's murky waters. Would he meet her enthusiasm with equal fervor, or would doubt creep in once again? This next conversation would be critical. As she hit send on the message, her heart raced. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but it was a path she was now ready to explore. What clarity would their next discussion reveal amidst the tension of their unfolding collaboration? The phone buzzed almost immediately, jolting Jenna out of her thoughts. She glanced at the screen. It was Marcus. Her pulse quickened as she swiped to answer, a mix of eagerness and anxiety tumbling through her. The stakes had risen quickly, and his response could either reinforce their partnership or cast shadows on what she was attempting to build. "Hey, Jenna." Marcus's voice crackled with warmth, yet held a hint of urgency. "Just saw your message. Let us meet as soon as possible. I think we have some critical angles to discuss." "Agreed," Jenna replied, surprised at the steadiness in her voice. "I was just reviewing the competition's proposals before you called. We need to strategize against Roger McCall. His project is a major threat." "Roger," Marcus echoed, the weight of the name palpable even through the phone. "He is a fierce competitor. Let us not just counter, let us outsmart him." They settled on meeting at a cafe downtown, a neutral ground that felt vibrant yet removed from the pressures of the office. As Jenna drove, the city's pulse mirrored her own bright lights and rushing people, the promise of opportunity wrapped in chaos. Her mind raced with possibilities and strategies, every turn fueling her determination further. Arriving at the cafe, Jenna spotted Marcus seated at a corner table, his presence both grounding and electrifying. She took a moment to appreciate how he commanded attention without effort, the way he engaged, the intensity of his gaze. Today, his usual business attire seemed custom-tailored for the ambition they shared, and it lifted her spirit. "Thanks for meeting up so quickly," she said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Of course," he replied with a confident smile. "I've been thinking a lot about our approach. We're not just battling for survival here. We're innovating." He leaned in closer, lowering his voice slightly. "We need to position ourselves as the disruptors, not just the competitors." Jenna felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with admiration. This was what she needed, a partner who didn't merely compete, but also inspired her to expand her vision. "I believe if we analyze their weaknesses thoroughly, we can design a narrative that showcases our integrity as a contrast to their cutthroat tactics. We'll frame ourselves as visionaries rather than just numbers." "Absolutely," Marcus said, his eyes alight with understanding. Let us collect testimonials, find clients who've been burned by Roger's practices. If we can bring those stories to light, it could shift public perception. They dived deep into ideas, brainstorming how to leverage emotional connections while maintaining professional integrity. As they mapped out their strategy, Jenna was surprised at how naturally their thoughts intertwined. It was exhilarating, a creative synergy that made the possibilities feel endless. Yet the encroaching reality of facing Roger loomed like a storm cloud, and she felt the simultaneous thrill of hope and apprehension. When Jenna mentioned the risks involved, Marcus raised an eyebrow, signaling an entry point into the depths of their partnership. What scares you the most? Facing the board? Roger? Honestly, Jenna paused, the question peeling back layers she hadn't fully acknowledged even to herself. Failing again. I've worked too hard to build my reputation, and one misstep could unravel it all. Marcus leaned back, the intensity in his gaze shifting to something softer, more contemplative. Failure can either break us or evolve us. It's how we choose to respond that defines us. His words settled within her like seeds taking root. Jenna felt emboldened to confront her fears, seeing them through a different lens. The talk wasn't just about strategies anymore. It was about honor, resilience, and growth. As they strategized further, the weight of their collaboration began to sink in. This was about more than beating Roger. It was about carving a space for integrity in their tumultuous industry. Let us do this, she said finally, breaking through the slightly charged atmosphere. Let us transform this narrative into a movement. The industry needs change, and we can make it happen. As they rounded off their meeting, Jenna realized that this was a turning point, an acknowledgement of her newfound ambition guided by mystery and conflict. However, as powerful as this moment felt, another wave of trepidation washed over her. What if their combined efforts attracted unwanted attention, prompting Roger to retaliate in unexpectedly ruthless ways? The unease stirred thoughts of what was yet to come. A sense of exhilaration tinged with anxiety filled her as she and Marcus stood to leave. Could this partnership stand when the real tests began? Walking out, Jenna turned to Marcus, her voice steady with a hint of determination. We have to be ready for whatever comes our way, especially from Roger. Marcus nodded, his expression mirroring her conviction. The real game is just beginning. In that moment, Jenna realized the depth of the challenge ahead. It wasn't just about surviving the current competition. It was about fostering mutual trust amidst the imminent adversity, a trust that would hold strong when their resolve was solicited. Would the strength of their partnership withstand the challenges ahead, or would doubt and ambition reveal darker sides they weren't prepared to confront? As they parted, Jenna's thoughts spun toward the confrontation with Roger. At the precipice of their collaborative journey, the true test of her integrity and their partnership loomed on the horizon. She would need to confront him soon, and clarity would emerge only when the exchange occurred face to face. The thought fueled her resolve. She couldn't afford to falter now. The time had come to face our greatest challenge yet. Jenna spent the following days steeped in preparation, her mind awash with strategy and the looming threat that was Roger McCall. The office felt different. The usual chatter and banter were muted, overshadowed by the weighty anticipation of the confrontation to come. Each meeting with her team required a new level of finesse. She felt the duty to inspire, to lead, and it ignited an uncomfortable mix of exhilaration and anxiety. She found herself constantly reflecting on the words Marcus had spoken, the idea that failure was not an endpoint, but a catalyst for growth. It struck her as an irony. The very fear holding her back could also propel her to unexpected heights. But the idea felt like a double-edged sword, one that could cut deep if handled carelessly. Would she really have the courage to turn her fear into fuel? As nights turned into early mornings, Jenna dove into everything she could find on Roger, dissecting his previous bids, scrutinizing his methods, and isolating the weaknesses that could allow her to punch through his facade. She discovered patterns, moments when he overreached or underestimated his opponents. In a strange way, studying him became a mirror for her own insecurities. Where did she overreach? Where did her ambition blind her? One evening, Jenna met with Marcus again, their brainstorming sessions becoming routine, an ignited flame of innovation breaking through the gloom of doubt. This time, however, she brought more to the table. I found something that might tip the scales. Roger has a history of manipulating contracts to pressure stakeholders. If we can expose even one instance, it might sway public opinion. Marcus's brows furrowed with interest. That's strong information. But are we ready for the backlash that comes with it? Taking him on this way could bring a storm we might not be prepared for. Isn't that what we talked about? Jenna shot back, surprising herself with the fervor in her voice. If we're going to do this, it has to be all in. I'm not just looking to succeed. I want to change how our industry operates. If it means taking a hit, then I'll figure out how to weather the storm. She saw the light in Marcus's eyes, a recognition of her growing confidence. You're right. It's about more than just this project. If we can leverage this moment for something larger, we have to own it. We've got to ensure our narrative is focused on integrity and transformation, not just revenge. The encounter resonated deeply with Jenna. Each meeting, each discussion transformed her from simply a competitor onto a true player in the field. She wasn't merely trying to survive. She was building a legacy that as their plans intensified. The looming date for the showdown with Roger hovered like a specter, its undeniable presence filling Jenna with an electric anticipation. Still, she knew that the stakes were higher than one confrontation. This would determine the trajectory of her career, whether she would remain in the shadows or step boldly into the light. Standing before her executive team days later, Jenna revealed their strategy. With each word, she observed reactions, some intrigued, others skeptical. She found herself increasingly assertive, defending their approach with a newfound resolve, invoking emotional buy-in from her coworkers, appealing not just to logic but to their sense of mission. However, as she concluded, a gnawing doubt flickered in her mind. What if this conspiracy of ideas and ideals could shatter if one miscalculation emerged? Could potential backlash affect not just her career but the people involved? Are we ready for the unexpected? She asked, her voice steady but her pulse quickening. A hush settled over the room, deep contemplation resting in the air like an opaque fog. Everyone shifted in their seats, weighing ambition against reality. Before Jenna could process their reactions, her phone vibrated with an incoming notification, breaking the tense moment. She pulled it out, heart racing. It was a message from Marcus that read, "We might have a problem. Roger is onto us." The air around her thickened, a chilling breeze cutting through her confidence. Jenna's grip tightened on her phone as a wave of determination surged within. Their plan was evolving, but with Roger's gaze fixed on them, the stakes just skyrocketed, propelling her into uncharted territory. Would she find the strength to dive deeper into the fray, even as the storm clouds of confrontation loomed unbearably close? The moment of truth was edging nearer, and Jenna felt herself standing on the precipice of her destiny. As the sun set over the city, painting the skyline with hues of orange and purple, Jenna stood by the window of her office, reflecting on the tumultuous journey she had undertaken. The storm had arrived, and confronting Roger was inevitable. Yet this moment felt starkly different from the girl who had once retreated under judgment. Now, with ambition fluttering in her heart, she understood that the true battle lay not solely in defeating her rival, but in proving her worth to herself. Determined, Jenna gathered her thoughts, transforming her anxieties into strategies for the upcoming showdown. Armed with research on Roger's past dealings and confident insight into her vision, she crafted a plan that was as much about integrity as it was about their competitive landscape. Each detail served to establish her as a formidable contender, ready to reclaim her narrative. No more shadows, she whispered to herself, ready to shine. In the days leading to their confrontation, her partnership with Marcus flourished under the weight of shared resolve. The electric chemistry of their collaboration was palpable, and together, they prepared for the storm that awaited them. Every brainstorming session infused Jenna with an unwavering sense of agency. She was not just a survivor, she was an architect of change. Finally, the day arrived. Jenna and Marcus entered the boardroom, an air of palpable tension enveloping them. Roger's intimidating presence loomed, flanked by his loyal supporters. The atmosphere crackled, a stark battlefield where truths and ambitions clashed. As they exchanged greetings, Jenna could see the calculating gleam in Roger's eyes, a predator assessing its prey. Her heart raced, but now it ignited her courage. She had come too far to step back. Jenna brilliantly presented their proposal, articulating not only their objectives, but also emphasizing the ethical framework that differentiated them from Roger's legacy of ruthlessness. This isn't just a project, Roger. It's an opportunity to redefine not only our careers, but also the industry itself, she declared, her voice steady. The room fell silent. The true weight of her words hung heavily in the AI first. Roger dismissed her words with feigned amusement, but as Jenna meticulously laid out evidence of his past manipulations, his facade began to crack. The tension shifted palpably, and she took the risk to delve deeper. You've built your empire on unsustainable practices, and it's time we illuminate that. Together, our project can establish a new paradigm. The shift in the room was electric. Perceptions were sliding. Doubts were surfacing that as the discussion escalated. Jenna found herself in a captivating flow. Her confidence surged, propelling her to dismantle Roger's defenses with each calculated statement. His predictability became an open book, and she deftly articulated moral principles to rally her peers. This wasn't merely a negotiation. It was the culmination of her journey toward empowerment. Then came the moment of reckoning. Roger, cornered and visibly agitated, attempted to regain control, but Jenna remained undeterred. This is your moment, Roger. You can continue down that path, but the tides of change are relentless. If you would like to be remembered, change starts now. The room fell silent, her challenge ringing in the air. A critical glance exchanged with Marcus validated her instincts in that defining instance, solidifying her newfound identity. When the votes were tallied and the board unanimously backed their initiative, a wave of exhilaration washed over her. The echoes of her past, those whispers of inadequacy, now faded, replaced by roaring recognition. She had reclaimed her voice, her purpose. In the weeks that followed, Jenna flourished in her role as leader and innovator. News of her project began spreading, illuminating the systemic issues she'd so passionately sought to address. Public testimonials from families touched by her initiative resonated deeply, turning her mission into a beacon of hope. As she stood in the community hall, addressing a gathering filled with gratitude and shared dreams, Jenna felt a newfound lightness in her heart. This is just the beginning, she declared, her voice confident and clear, a resolute promise to herself and those she served. The echoes of her family legacy now intertwined with her own, a legacy forged not merely in ambition but also in integrity. Jenna had achieved more than she ever thought possible. She had conquered her fears, established her position, and demonstrated that true leadership stems from authenticity. The battle had reshaped her paradigm. With every step she took, she fortified her commitment to justice, proving not just to the world but to herself that she was worthy of respect and recognition. And as she walked out into the dusk, ready to embrace whatever the future held, her heart surged with hope. The culmination of her journey had become a declaration of individuality and the insistent call for continued growth. Now, more than ever, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and express your support for powerful narratives of personal transformation. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, sharing how this journey resonated with you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and witness the power of resilience. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories know this is the moment to show your support.